Khabib Nurmagomedov is widely regarded as one of the best lightweights to ever have fought in the UFC and is regarded by many as the GOAT of MMA. We can just hear John Jones seething. If you want to learn more about the only 2 rounds he's ever lost in his career, be sure to stick around till the end of the video. Let's get right into it. First up, how good was Khabib? Khabib Nurmagomedov is widely regarded as the pinnacle of MMA fighting. He holds a spotless record of 29 victories in the UFC without any losses. The man consistently went up against the best of the best and continued to overpower anyone that stepped in his path. We could see the day he stepped into the UFC octagon for the first time, he had a firm goal in his mind. Wearing that lightweight belt around his waist was the only thing on his mind. We mean, just look at his dialogue during his fights. He'd consistently ask his opponents to give up because he believed he deserved the belt. It was a crazy time when he fought. Dana White would constantly send in tough opponent after tough opponent to try and beat Khabib, but it seemed like there was nobody who could step up to his level. Conor and Khabib was possibly the biggest thing to happen in MMA since, well, its beginning. Even though everybody thought that he would be the death of Khabib's streak, he still managed to defeat Conor. That too, might we add, in the grandest of fashion. He dominated the Irishman throughout the fight before making him tap. Next up, he only lost 2 rounds in his whole career. Khabib Nurmagomedov officially retired from the sport in MMA in late 2020 after defeating Justin Gaethje and defending his title for one last time. Throughout his time fighting, he only managed to lose 2 rounds. Out of a total of 145 rounds, the man only lost 2 rounds. Think about that for a second. The dude was unbeatable for the entirety of his career. That isn't even the craziest part about his training regimen. When he was a wee little toddler, the man was wrestling bears for fun. Bro, we can't even make this stuff up. While every one of his opponents tried their hardest to land at least a few punches on him, they were largely unsuccessful. Whenever he faced off against a notable fighter, their fight camps would do extensive research on Khabib to try and figure out his weaknesses. The man had virtually none, so it didn't exactly make the fighter's job any easier. Those he had would disappear the next time he stepped into the octagon. He was evolving as a fighter in the most consistent way possible. That's not to say that it completely failed. It kind of worked for Conor when he fought Khabib back in 2018. He managed to hang in there during the 3rd round of their fight, and the judges awarded him the round. Coming up, is this dude even human? He has to be something else entirely, considering the amount of punishment he manages to dish out without going home with so much as a scratch. You'll be pretty surprised to learn that Khabib hasn't received so much as a bruise throughout his 29 fights for the UFC. The man is a monster, and it just doesn't seem humanly possible to defeat the dude. He showed that he does have some flaws in his fight against Justin Gaethje. The first round went to Justin after all, though what followed after was a catastrophe. Still though, we have to commend Gaethje for being only the 2nd man to ever win a round against this absolute beast of a fighter. Gaethje managed to come out guns blazing in the first round of his fight against Khabib and landed a few good punches and kicks that allowed him to rock the champion early on. Though that's where Khabib's goodwill stopped and the monster took over. After allowing Gaethje to win the first round and get some hope, Khabib went to work. The rest of the fight went according to Khabib's plan. He went ahead and dominated Gaethje and ended the fight a few rounds later via a triangle choke. After the fight, Khabib talked about how he could have broken Gaethje's arm via an armbar, but his parents were there, so he decided to take the merciful route and instead put him to sleep. Finally, is Khabib the greatest fighter of all time? Khabib is probably the greatest champion to ever wear the belt. Imagine if he'd been around during the GSP era. That probably would have been an even bigger PPV than his fight with Conor. GSP went on the Joe Rogan show and talked about how he tried to set up a fight with Khabib. However, due to family reasons, the former champion declined. Not only is Khabib an MMA great himself, but he's also besties with another legend of the octagon, Daniel Cormier. There are videos all over the internet of these two goofing off together. It's pretty wholesome to watch, we're not gonna lie. It seems like Khabib is pretty happy with his current situation. After retirement, he hasn't expressed any desire to step back into the octagon, other than as a coach. Which, by the way, is another story altogether. He's currently the most sought-after coach in the MMA industry right now. Looks like everybody wants to know the champ's secret and learn as much as they can from him. Another thing to note is the fact that pulling off what Khabib managed to do requires an insane amount of mental fortitude that very few athletes in general possess. Plus, he has a certain charisma around him that makes him scary and loving at the same time. It's kind of like if you meet a bear in the wild and he roars, then you hand him a fish and suddenly you're all best friends. One thing's for sure, there will never be another Khabib. Now, let's check out how he's doing as a coach. First up, how revered is Khabib as a coach? When he first came back into the MMA scene as a coach, not a lot of people expected much from this guy. Turns out he learned a hell of a lot from his dad. Not only did he learn how to dominate his opponents in the octagon, he learned how to make fighters into some of the most fearsome dudes you'll meet in your life. These days, his biggest success stories include Islam Makhachev, who he said was his dad's favorite student. He coached Islam to victory recently and helped him win the lightweight title. That too in style. Islam was the clear underdog coming into the fight. However, Khabib made sure to tell him exactly what to do and when, hence making sure that he came out on top. Not only that, Islam, thanks to Khabib's excellent ringside callouts, managed to maintain an 11-fight win streak to get there. If that isn't the next most goated coach you'll ever hear about, we don't know who is. This man is a gift to the MMA world. Next up, how desperate are fighters to train under Khabib? Another fighter who managed to improve Khabib's record as a coach on to 3-0 was Belal Muhammad. After his amazing feat, fighters from all over are begging to learn from the GOAT. One of the lightweight division's best fighters, Brian Ortega, tweeted out asking Khabib to train him. He even said, "Please." So that should tug at the Dagestani's heartstrings. We have to say, it'll be pretty interesting to see if Khabib does end up training Brian Ortega. Ortega's skill set is already pretty stacked, so if he manages to add that level of a ground game to his repertoire, he'll become unstoppable. It's like everything Khabib touches turns to gold. There's a reason why everybody's dying to train under this guy. We're sure that other younger and lesser-known fighters are looking to train under Khabib. As time passes, his own fighting company is sure to grow into a contender for the UFC itself. We remember back when Khabib managed to beat Conor and the entirety of the Dagestan, no, Russia, celebrated. Even President Putin himself called up Khabib and invited him over to personally congratulate the dude. Finally, how does Khabib's future as a coach look? There's no doubt that he's going to go places as a coach. Currently, since he started coaching his fighters, he hasn't had them lose a fight. One of his fighters, Islam Makhachev, has already gone on to become a lightweight champion. That's a pretty impressive boast to make, from being the champion himself with a spotless record to becoming the maker of champions just 4 years down the line. There's a huge line of fighters looking to get a chance to train under Khabib, and if he picks one of them, they'll be counting their lucky stars every time they step into the octagon with Khabib by their side. We are pretty hyped to see how far he can go as a coach, and we can't wait to see how more of his fighters do in the future. We believe his team is already on its way to becoming the next great fight champ. Well, that's a wrap for this video. Do you think Khabib will continue to succeed as a coach? Let us know in the comments below. Also, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. We'll see you in the next one.